Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We'll bring to order the Washoe County Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting for Tuesday, October 6th at 2:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Stephanie Chen.
Here.
Jennifer Oliver.
Here.
Heidi Anderson. Absent. Doug Doolittle.
Here.
Thomas Gwynn. Absent. Darla Lee.
Here.
Chris Nenzel. Absent. Greg Shorts. Looks like Greg's absent. Let's see. We only have 4. Oh. Okay. Chris Nenzel. Okay.
This is Doug Doolittle. Did you get mine?
Oh, sorry, Doug. Doug Doolittle?
Yeah, did you mark me as there?
Yes, as there, as here, yes.
Okay.
This is Eric. It looks like Chris Nenzel just joined.
Yeah. Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Darla, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Do we have any public comments?
We have no public comment.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting of October 6th.
Move to approve. Doug Doolittle.
Thank you, Doug.
Second, Jennifer Oliver.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Item 5, approval of the minutes for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting for September 1st, 2020. Any questions or discussions with the minutes? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second, Doug Doolittle.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. We'll go on to item 6, acknowledgement and recognition of park operations staff for their outstanding service and contributions to Washoe County.
This is Eric Crump. We do not have any this month.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Do we have an Eagle Scout presentation today?
We do not.
All right. Moving along to item 8, presentation and discussion on residential construction tax, including but not limited to available balances by Washoe County park districts and how it can be used.
Good afternoon.
Just want to let you know I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
Okay. For the record, Eric Crump with Washoe County. Today, I wanted to give kind of a broad overview of our residential construction tax, how it was enabled, how it's collected, how it can be used, and go over the county's park districts along with those fund balances. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation here, so bear with me here for a second. All see that? Can you all see that?
Yes.
Great. So the enabling legislation that allows us to collect residential construction tax lives in section 278.4983 of Nevada revised statutes. So on this slide, I've taken the liberty of picking some of the more relevant information from that statute that I think is of value. I mean, obviously, a lot of it's of value, but this is kind of the highlights of it. So how it's valuated, we take basically 1% of the valuation of each building permit issued or $1,000 per residential dwelling unit, whichever is less. This is often the $1,000 per residential dwelling unit, unless we're talking mobile home park or something like that. So typically we talk about basically $1,000 per home that is collected when homes are built. The purpose of the tax is to raise revenue to enable the cities and counties to provide for neighborhood parks and facilities which are required by the residents of those apartments, mobile homes, or residences adjacent to that park. As you can imagine, if you have a development that's, say 500 or so residential dwelling units, and you're only collecting $1,000, there's not a whole lot of money that can be used. So that's where we work with a lot of developers on developing man-of-yard neighborhood parks. There's a lot of stipulations on how the money can be used. It can be used for acquisition, improvement, or expansion of neighborhood parks, the installation or improvement of facilities in existing or obviously new neighborhood parks. And then money in the fund must be expended within the park district from which it was collected and must not be expended for maintenance and operational expenses. And I think that's really important to understand. It cannot be used for maintenance or operations. And then it goes on to define basically what facilities are. It basically means turfs, trees, irrigation, playground, apparatus, playing fields, play areas, picnic areas, horseshoe pits, and other recreational equipment designed to serve the person, families, or small groups from the neighborhood from which the tax was collected. So it can't be used for like pools, can't be used for typically like large community centers. It actually goes in and gives a further definition around playing fields to be used for amateur sports for small groups, so not large competitions, that type of thing. So this map here, kind of difficult to read. We'll go into a little more detail in some further slides, but this represents all of Washoe County. So we have roughly 20 park districts. Well, there's 4 park districts that consist of 20 sub-districts. And so that park district, that very long one, is pretty much all of northern Washoe County. Not a lot of development happening up there. That's 2B. And then the rest is located in the southern part of our county where most of the development is. So this is a close-up slide that shows nearly all of the other park districts with the exception of northern Washoe County 2B. You can kind of see the geographic distribution of those park districts throughout the county. And then this slide represents those same park districts overlaid with our Washoe County parks identified in blue for Washoe County Parks and Open Space, and then obviously other park and open space land distributed throughout those park districts. You can see we pretty much have parks in obviously all of the districts. Some of the districts are relatively small, some of them are relatively large. And this is a list of all the different park districts. So we have 4 park districts and each of them have sub-districts within them. So District 1 has sub-district 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D, primarily located in the south. And then you have District 2, which is has quite a few sub-districts in it, and it's primarily located in the north. District 3 represents primarily Virginia foothills, Pleasant Valley, so some of the south and east part of our county. And then District 4 has Crystal Bay, which is 4A, and Incline Village, which is 4B. What's interesting here, here's the available fund balances within each of those districts. it ranges from $7 in the 2A3, which is the Black Springs area, all the way to, $1.5 million in 2C Spanish Springs, East Truckee Canyon. That's should come as no surprise. That's where we're seeing, a lot of the growth within the unincorporated area of Washoe County. It's real important to note that obviously these sub-districts are only within the unincorporated area of the county. So within the city of Reno and the city of Sparks, those developments, they actually obviously receive the residential construction tax for those areas. In 2015, this legislation was changed. Prior to 2015, we could only use these funds on basically new things, whether they were new equipment or new parks or new acquisition. So a park would be built, but we would still continue to collect residential construction tax. It wasn't enough to build, say, another park, but we couldn't use it to replace anything within that park. And most of the neighborhood parks are built out. So it was actually fairly difficult to use some of the funds for some time. The legislation was changed in 2015, and it allowed us to actually start replacing equipment in existing parks. And that's what we've been doing a lot of. We've, over the last 4 years or 5 years since that legislation changed, we have gone through and replaced a lot of parks. This is good money to have when we're looking at matches for like LWCF grants or other grant opportunities that allow us to replace, kind of high dollar items, things like playgrounds and surfacing for those playgrounds. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I did want to follow up. So as we've discussed in previous meetings, there's some recommendations in our current master plan that recommend basically consolidating some of the park districts due to those relatively small available funds. I think some of the information that we received throughout that master planning process in terms of people willing and often do drive, 5, 6, 7 miles to a park. Washoe County, especially in some of our unincorporated areas, they're used to that somewhat rural lifestyle. They're used to driving. And so that, that is what they do is drive to their park versus some of the, city of Reno, city of Sparks, where they have much higher densities in their neighborhoods and the parks are easier to get to. So I think there is some benefit to consolidating some of those park districts and hopefully get that money on the ground. And we'll be bringing this commission a subsequent item looking for recommendations to kind of go that route. It does require a change in ordinance. So the legislation is enabling and then must be passed through ordinance. So we would have to amend Washoe County ordinance to amend the sub-districts. So, but we'll bring some of that information to you in a subsequent meeting. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. That was informational. Do we have any questions for Eric?
This is Doug Doolittle. I do have a question. Eric, the legislation used to state that it'd be 1% or $1,000, but counties could opt to do a 2% or $2,000 assessment. Is that was that changed in the latest legislation? 2% dropped off.
Yeah, Commissioner Doolittle, I have not. So the legislation currently reads $1,000 or 1%. I have not seen any language in that legislation that would allow for a higher amount. So if it has changed recently, it must have changed in the 2015.
But I'm probably dating myself. It probably changed 20 years ago, but
I can tell you it's not in there now.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks. The second question: when you start putting the districts together, prior to any vote on it, it's going to come back to the Park Commission?
Actually, the very start of that would come to the Park Commission. So the way I envision that happening we would style an item that would be for action for this commission. We would basically, list the pros and cons of consolidating those park districts. There's some recommendations in the master plan that actually identify geographically what those park districts would look like. And they would basically line up with some of the districts that are the planning districts that are laid out in the master plan, which is going through approval right now. And there's actually some nexus between making some changes now and having that align with the master plan that we're going through right now. So the item would be styled as such that we would make some recommendations and you all would take action to basically give us direction to take that proposed ordinance amendment to the Board of County Commission.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Eric? Go
I
ahead.
have a question. This is Jennifer. Eric, just to clarify, the expenditures have to be within a district, not within that sub-district, correct?
They have to be within the way it's put together right now. It has to be within the sub district.
Oh, okay.
That's
Thank
why
you.
you see balances like $7. So I believe,
Right.
and I don't know all the history, but I believe we created the districts first, and then we went into the ordinance and created the sub districts. So by definition, those sub districts are the districts that we've identified. So they have to stay within the sub districts.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
This is Darla Lee.
This is Greg with a quick question. So there's a lot of money up in Incline. Have they just not been spending that money, or there's not a huge amount of growth up there in units? So is they just not? Do we just not spend the money up there, or is it accumulating from some other source?
That's a great question, Commissioner Shorts. It is not accumulating from other areas. It's all residential construction tax. So, and I'm glad you brought that up. We have two areas within Washoe County. One is Incline Village and the other is Sun Valley, where there's general improvement districts that have recreational authority. They pretty much offer and provide recreational opportunities within their communities. And so we have agreements with both Incline Village, IVGID, and Sun Valley GID to basically reimburse them for expenditures that are eligible under residential construction tax. So oftentimes they come forward with an identified project, whether it's an improvement to one of their existing parks or whether it's a new park. And we have a kind of a standing agreement that allows them the authority to utilize that residential construction tax. I believe we just took one recently for Sun Valley General Improvement District to reimburse them for some improvements made in park. As you can imagine, those are relatively small communities. There's not a lot of parks, but they do actually utilize that money quite often.
This is Doug Dooley, and I might add to that they've had a lot of transition over the last several years, and they may very well not know exactly how much money they have in that fund. So it might be worthwhile to send off an email or some kind of communication to them to let them know what exists in those funds. They don't have a lot of growth up there, but there's new construction going on all the time up there. And the funds do escalate. Many of the parks up there were built using residential construction tax funds. So they have utilized quite a bit over the last 20, 30 years.
Thank you.
Eric, this is Jennifer. Was any of the construction tax funding used for the East Shore Trail?
It was not.
Was that not an eligible expense?
I think elements of it would be. And there's talks of, that it's kind of not done yet, so to speak. So
Right.
there's discussions about utilizing residential construction tax for certain elements of that.
Okay, thank you.
Great question.
Commissioner Lee, were you, Jeff?
Oh, I was just wondering a little bit more about, so we are going to get more information about the consolidation of these park districts, Eric, as things come up. So I'm still a little confused about how this is going to improve revenues for parks. If it's more consolidated, if, say, Sun Valley or the Tahoe areas, would they, I assume, would be invited to this new park, conglomerated park district as well? And then if that happens, then is it all the money is combined from the construction, the residential construction, and that is more helpful to, to building and especially the maintenance of the parks? Because it doesn't seem like this construction tax doesn't address the maintenance, right?
Right. So for the record, Eric Crump, some great questions in there. So I think I want to clarify a few things. So there's been a lot of discussion. We recently had a workshop where there was a presentation from former director Julie Conway and Karen Mullen regarding park districts. So that is enabling legislation, and that is completely different from these park tax districts that we're talking about today. So the consolidation of the the enabling legislation, the NRS that I just referenced, has been in place for some time, and it basically allows cities and counties to collect residential construction tasks based on development. So, and nothing else. And it's simply meant to be able to provide a funding source to build parks and now replace things within those parks. Still can't use it for operation and maintenance. The consolidation of all the 20 different sub-park districts that you see would allow us to get some of this money on the ground. When you see balances like $7 or balances like $50,000, believe it or not, there's not a whole bunch you can do in a park for, less than $100,000. So it allows us to get those funds in the ground to the benefit of our community. It also allows, as further development exists, it allows us to kind of to share that and again provide a better benefit to our community.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mike, I was confused. So thanks.
Understandable.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Eric. We're going to go ahead and move on to item 9, Parks Reports.
Again, for the record, Eric Crump, I'll be taking that one today. Colleen is on vacation, enjoying some time off. So I wanted to, hopefully you all received the Park District reports for September in your packets. I did want to highlight that on September 26th marked another annual KTMB Truckee River cleanup. It was a very, very successful event. We've been cooperating with that and KTMB in that event for quite some time, and I can tell you it was really good. We had Crystal Peak Park, Mayberry Park, Duraskar Park, and Ambrose Park as all locations that received some much needed volunteer help during that cleanup. So we'd like to thank KTMB for their continued support of our park system. And then with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have relative to the park district, the planning district, or the park report, the volunteer report, or the golf report.
Thank you, Eric. I actually have a question. So with the increased limit of gatherings from 50 to, 250 just recently, has staff thought about adding more events, allowing more folks, assuming that social distancing guidelines could be met?
We've spent a lot of time kind of going through there's been 2 new directives. We had one that increased the size of the social gatherings. That was Directive 33, and then most recently Directive 34 that addressed youth sports. So I've spent an inordinate amount of time working with staff and some of our counterparts at City of Reno and City of Sparks. And so, yes, we are working through those right now. We're in a position where we are able to open up many of our facilities and our parks to larger gatherings. I think it's important to note that, what people hear is, well, you can have a group size of 250, but there's a whole host of measures and stipulations and safety protocol that need to go with that, that we have worked through, and we are working with many of our groups and many of our event organizers on those very things.
Okay, thank you.
This is a little more of a broad question, Eric, with, I know that Directive 33 increased to 250 or 50%, but I also noticed that the county had a 25 max. Has that been, obviously that's probably, has that been already changed?
That's a great question, Commissioner. So the 25 came in, it was quite confusing for some, and I can understand why. So the original directive limited group sizes to 50. Our county, because of, and Assistant County Manager Solaro can probably help me with this, but our county had to submit a plan to the state because we met a certain number of criteria, basically it put us in this yellow zone, if you will. And one of the elements of that plan is reducing our group size to 25. So remember, we have to abide by any directive of the state, but we can have more restrictive guidelines. So we had to reduce our numbers from 50 to 25. That has since now, it's my understanding that plan with this new directive, we are working under the new directive. So it's 20 or 250 or 50% of the 50% capacity.
Great, thank you.
This is Darla Lee. Eric, could you just clarify for the golf review summary? So is it just, I'm just seeing it for the Sierra Sage Golf Course, or was it combined somehow? Or was that the only one that is on the report is for Sierra Sage?
One moment, let me bring that up.
Eric, if you want, this is Dave. I can cover that one. Commissioner Lee, this is Dave Solaro.
Hi.
Yeah, so what we have there is we've got Sierra Sage and Washoe Golf. They're both combined in that same report. Washoe Golf, I believe, is the last 2 pages of that report that you've got there. Sorry, last 3 pages
So
are
it's
Washoe Golf.
where it says Bell Men Golf
Correct.
Revenue? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Bellman is Washoe Golf.
I gotcha.
Okay.
And so Wild Creek is still not being included on the report?
No, Wild Creek has not been included. When I get the final report in November, I will report back to this group. I'm actually awaiting a proposal from Mike Mazzaferri related to Wild Creek moving forward.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Parks reports? Okay, thank you, Eric and Dave. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 10, Director's Report.
Good afternoon. For the record, Dave Solaro, Director of the Community Services Department. Not a whole lot to cover. I was going to talk a little bit about the new directive and the 250 and what we're doing in parks, so that's already been covered. Thank you for those questions. One item of note that came to the Board of County Commissioners that I don't believe we've had any opportunity to talk with this group about, actually our Washoe County Sewer Utility has taken a contract to the Board of County Commissioners for some design work associated with providing reclaimed water up to the Hidden Valley area. As we go through that, there's a potential to get actual reclaimed water to our park facility up at Hidden Valley, the regional park. So just wanted to bring that forward in case any of you saw that on the agenda, an item for some design service associated with getting our effluent to that location. We're also talking with golf operators along the way. So that's something that pretty exciting ability to, work with our one of our most precious utility assets, our reclaimed water system. So that's really all I have for this report, unless there are any questions from the commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, not hearing any questions. We'll go ahead and move on to item 11, Commissioners' comments. Seeing some head nodding, okay. Okay, I also don't have any comments. All right, item 12, public comment.
We have no public comment.
Okay, thank you. This was a nice short meeting. We'll move on to item 13, adjournment at 3:01. Thank you, everyone.